I'm interested in decarbonization. I'm in decarbonization group, so you can just easily search that group function in there using the search function, and connect with the people inside, understand what is their concern, and try to create a post that address their concern. So sometimes what you can do is you can create a post, then you repost it to the group, then you get more reaction, you'll get more comments, and that will increase your SSI index. That means like if there is a specific topic that is relevant to your field, you will get up to the in the search list. Hi, I'm Patricia Alvina from Siemens Singapore. I'm part of the energy performance and sustainability teams, and welcome to Data Center Go-to-Market podcast.
Welcome, data center friends. It's Joshua Feinberg from the Data Center Go-to-Market podcast, and I'm thrilled to have a very special guest joining me here today. I'm welcoming Patricia Alvina, who is the sales manager of ASEAN with Siemens based in Singapore. Patricia, welcome to the podcast. So glad to have you with us today.
Yeah, glad to have me. Thank you for inviting me here. I'm glad to be part of your podcast.
You're very welcome, and thank you for agreeing to come on and share your wisdom of what it's like growing infrastructure-related business in and around the data center space in Singapore. I think the first place would be super helpful is, could you provide a little bit of background on how you ended up in your role as a sales manager with Siemens? Was this something, did you always know that you wanted to get into energy and digital infrastructure? Was it a series of calculated job moves over the years that landed you in this place in your career? Was this something you studied in university when you were younger? How did you get to this place?
Very good question, Joshua. So yes, like Joshua mentioned, I'm with Siemens now as a sales manager covering ASEAN territory. But I have a long working history, I will say, about 17 years working history in the energy industry. And a short introduction about Siemens. We provide solution for data center, for example, in digital and AI solution base to help building automation, energy automation, and decarbonization, security, fire system to meet KPI and PUE of the target data center. So come back to myself, a little bit about myself. I have been in the energy industry over 17 years and have double master degree in energy engineering and innovation. My career journey started with company that design and consult energy supply to the electricity network, building technology for decarbonization, and my last post before Siemens was with ENGIE as a project manager. And one of the projects I manage is their electrolyzer and fuel cell system, where I also get to learn about data center industry, especially in the tropic, whereby it is an energy guzzler, and 40% of energy goes to the cooling system, especially in the tropical weather. So yeah, and how I learn about how I pivot to Siemens, I think it's a kind of a career process. My entire career all about in the energy industry, and moving from academia, from research to a different innovation topic, and then now I'm at Siemens, where I get to apply all the knowledge that I have on the energy to help clients to understand about their energy consumption and how they can help to reduce the energy consumption, to optimize it, and also to decarbonize their systems. So I think that's a short introduction about myself. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions, Joshua.
So what's super interesting about that is, in the state of the data center ecosystem right now, so many sales professionals are facing this existential moment in their careers where they're being forced to reinvent themselves and position themselves more as consultants and subject matter experts. You were already very clearly the subject matter expert long before you came to Siemens. So that must clearly be very helpful in winning over the trust and minds of the prospects and clients you talk to on a regular basis.
Wow, that's a very nice word of you. Thank you. Well, I would say yes, there is a pivot of client perspective today. They are, well, as client gets more and more educated, you have internet and information are everywhere. It's very easy for them to get to know what is a product in the market, what is available, what is the latest technologies. So what a challenge I see from the clients is that they know the technology, but do they know what is the problem they have on hand, or they just want to apply the technology. So if they just want to apply the technology, they will find uh, internet resources to just buy it offline. But what they want from you is to understand what is the problem they have and how to address the problem in the consultative selling manners. I guess that's a short way to explain about the challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, because I see so many people that have built their careers in this space by being really good at whining and dining prospects and taking clients out to play golf and based on relationships. And all of a sudden now we live in a world where no one needs people to read websites to them anymore. They can read the websites on their own and watch videos and attend webinars and ask peers and other trusted kind of professional relationships. So you clearly are a step ahead of all of that. With that in mind, you're at a stage in your career where I imagine from time to time, people that are very early on, maybe that are just going into university or early on in their careers, may come to you for time to time for advice. Maybe it's a coworker that has a son or daughter that's trying to figure out what they want to study in college and university. Maybe it's a neighbor or family member. What would you tell someone that's curious about what careers look like in digital infrastructure and the energy space within digital infrastructure if someone doesn't want to go into a really technical career in like engineering or computer science or something like that, if they want to be in a client-facing role?
Okay, that's a very interesting questions because yeah, to be honest, when I grew up, I never thought myself as being a very technical person. So it grows over the years, where kind of situation forced me to be more in depth to know what I'm doing, to know what is a technical problems that I have on hand. And I would say the advice I have for aspiring children, I guess, to that looking for a position that is not so technical. Um, I would say explore, listen to people, be curious, have a positive attitude, and lastly, but most importantly, is networking, and networking. Go out there, meet people, ask them questions, what they do, what is their role about, what is their um, how their role helps the company to solve the problems. I think that's the most important thing, understanding about the roles and the stakeholder analysis, basically. Knowing who is the buyer, who is the decision makers, uh, who is the manager, and what the manager concerned about, the pain point of the company. I think that's very important to know if you're looking into position or a new position in the company. So yeah, for a new beginners, especially a female, if you are worried that it becomes too much technology or too much technical knowledge required, please don't be afraid of that, because we always need different perspective in the team, and never be concerned that what you say is wrong, or it's going to impact other people. Well, we are all adults here, huh? And yeah, and just listen, to have an active listening skills to learn more about what people are doing and what's the problem they're solving. Hope that's addressed your question, Joshua.
Oh yeah, super interesting. You know, I found you mentioned one thing about knowing the different kinds of stakeholders that have interest in that, and that's definitely something that I don't see higher education doing a great job of for starters, there's very few universities that have formal programs around selling. But even if they were, that's probably one of the much less intuitive concepts to explain to someone that's early on in their career, is that when it comes to a large considered project that you may be working on this opportunity for anywhere from months to literally years, and there could be anywhere from a handful to many, many more than that stakeholders involved that slowly but surely you have to win over.
Yes, especially in the data center industry, whereby it's a B2B business, business to business. So it's like large company to large company, and each company has their own organization structure. So you have to understand that very well to know what to say. Of course, don't worry if you say the wrong thing at the first time, but yeah, to eventually you will need to understand what is their pain point, what is their concern, what they are, what is their KPI, and how can you help them with their KPI.
Yeah, I think that's one of the more challenging opportunities for those that are brand new to this industry, is even just understanding the difference between the operators, technology companies, facility companies, construction, real estate. There's just so many different facets of this industry to get your mind around. And I love the idea of young aspiring people in this space approaching someone like yourself for career advice. And that's something that by mid-career, people have usually gotten pretty good at that, which kind of brings me to my next question. And when you say you're at a conference and you bumped into a coworker that you worked together with earlier on in your career, and they saw the great work that you're doing at Siemens, and they were super curious about how they might get into some kind of opportunity like that, but moreover, in the course of having coffee with them or having lunch with them, you find out that they're a little burned out in their current job. They know they want to stay in something related to digital infrastructure, but they think they may need to pivot their career a little bit. What would you tell a friend or former colleague in this kind of situation?
I will say talk to people, put yourself out there. LinkedIn is a very good tool. I've used that a lot throughout my career, from after my graduation, to understand about the company available, to understand what a company concerned, to understand the specific people concerned. If let's say you're looking into pivoting to a new companies, you need to understand how is the organization structured like. So you need to understand what is their pain point and what is the gap between your current skill set and your future role. And you need to fill that up, right? To how you fill that up, you can take courses, or you can also learn from other people. So, you can talk to people, from experienced people in the similar role, and just ask them for a meeting, connect them in LinkedIn, ask them for a meeting and talk to them, try to understand their role. And a lot of people are very nice. They will try to help you to understand what is your interest and what is your role that you want, and they will try to help you to bridge this gap. So I guess I'm fortunate in that sense throughout my life that people have helped me to they are being nice and help me to see and understand what is the gap between what I have done and what I want to do, and try to identify the gap of my skill set, and I fill it up over the time with either taking courses or just talk to people. So yeah, I think this is a very essential skills that in today's world, where the only constant is change, you really need to keep yourself updated on what is the current trend, on what is what's going on in different organization, the company, how the organization structured like, and keep yourself updated, and be ready for change at any time. I guess that's the short version of how we could stay abreast in this current uncertainty.
That makes a lot of sense, especially with such a LinkedIn-centric approach. I, in a lot of ways, look at LinkedIn as the 724 365 conference that really just is always going on, and you get to pick and choose who you participate with, depending on who you connect with and who you follow. And that reminds me too, I think about a month or two back, I saw you shared some really interesting advice on how to approach LinkedIn social selling and the social selling index and how you were working on this with your team. Is that advice that you think would be applicable not just to your sales team, but to people that essentially are taking a proactive role in defining their career futures?
Yes, definitely. Well, so there's two problems there, right? One is if you want to pivot to a new job, and second, if you want to find a new leads. So LinkedIn has a very broad tools about to solve both these problems. So to find a new job, you can just use the standard LinkedIn function, to look at the network. You can use a search function, look for data center industries, and look for different companies. And you can dive deeper, so you can search who are the people in that companies, and you can look into their posts and their concern. I think if you have premium function, you can also get more in depth into to know what they are looking for. And to the second portion of your question is how to address it for the salespeople, right? For the salespeople, I think LinkedIn now has a sales navigator tool, which is a good bonus if you need to analyze what is available in the market, what is their buying trend, and what is their buying interest. So I would say it's you really need to put your time. I mean, LinkedIn is a tool again, yeah. It's only as good as when you use it. So you really need to put the time and effort to dive deeper into the network, get the understanding. I mean, I don't mean to sound like a stalker here, but when I just graduated and I was looking for a job, I sent like hundreds and hundreds of messages to different people to understand what is their concern, what is their problem, and how I can help them. Repeating myself like hundreds of times to tell them what do I do, what is my skill set, and at the beginning I don't even know how I can fit in, so I just tell them what I can do. And slowly with time, I started to learn on what is the problem and challenges on hand, and try to fit in the skill set that I have to that role. In sales, I will say that a LinkedIn is a good tool to network, to get to know people. I've sent a lot of messages to them and get connection with them, and get a meeting with them. I think I've set up several meetings throughout my career here, which leads to an opportunities. So it's a good tools for you, for salespeople to understand what is the buyer markets looks like, and who is the decision makers. And because it's clearly stated, right? Okay, this role is CEO, this role is CFO. So you need to craft your message accordingly to address their concern. I hope this addressed your question, Joshua.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it actually, as you were talking through that, it struck me how many parallels there are between being a SDR, a sales development or business development rep, and actually prospecting for your own career, building kind of like a pipeline, right?
Yeah. It's either you sell yourself or you sell your company products.
I sometimes get people that ask me too, well, what if they're not on LinkedIn? I'm like, well, we're fortunately, because of the nature of what we do, nearly all internal champions are on LinkedIn, and they're probably not going to be a very effective internal champion at this stage in the 2020s if they're very resistant to having their professional network. The super interesting part about LinkedIn is not only when you're doing research on leads and trying to figure out what's going on in an account by looking at LinkedIn profiles for multiple people in that account, you not only know how they describe themselves, you know all of the content that they're sharing and they're interacting with. So you're able to kind of tell these signals on exactly what they said. And then you're also able to infer a lot based on the kinds of content that they're showing interest on for tailoring and customizing your approach with all that. So yeah, it's tremendously. And they always say, like with LinkedIn, when somebody gets a new job, the first person you tell is your spouse, your significant other, and the second person you tell is LinkedIn. And that's how you know that LinkedIn is always, because that's one of the big banes of existence for people in sales that do outbound prospecting when they're looking at Zoom info and the half a dozen other databases that are in that platform is how current is it going to be? LinkedIn, for whatever reason, with its billion members, has gotten people really, really used to keeping their profiles and their jobs super current. Sometimes I see people that don't close out jobs when they leave and go to another opportunity, but for most people in these roles, it tends to be very, very up to date. And that helps a lot.
Yes. I think, I do know several people that still doesn't have LinkedIn because of restriction of the company, but if you don't have that, you should have LinkedIn. That's the first thing you need to have when you even just started your career, to learn about other people and put yourself out there, put yourself in the network, put yourself in the headhunter network, and then really learn about the industry itself. Use the if you just started, you probably know a lot about what your teacher tell you, but likely it's very theoretical, and you need to apply that to translate that information to what the industry needs. So you need to have a lot of creative thinking, but you really need to put your time to understand your network to do that.
Yeah,
The Data Center Go-to-Market podcast is sponsored by DCSMI, elevating the role of sales, marketing, and go-to-market GTM professionals in the growth of the data center industry. To stay informed about upcoming episodes, make sure that you subscribe to the Data Center Sales and Marketing newsletter on the DCSMI website that can be found at www.dcsmi.com. Again, that URL is www.dcsmi.com.
Regardless of whether you join some groups or follow some strategically important hashtags you could be following probably as few as 50 or 100 companies in the space and 50 or 100 thought leaders that share useful content, and you would just get an enormous education by doing nothing more than spending a half hour to an hour a day reading the kind of posts that they're sharing, and then eventually adding some commentary and participating in that.
That's what I learned as well. How maybe just this is a bit diversion, but maybe some tips on how you can put yourself up there and increase your. There is something called social selling index in LinkedIn today. So you will be kind of the influencer, I guess, in the social media world. Is you have to respond to people's comment, add yourself in the group chat, the relevant teams, like the. If I'm interested in decarbonization, I'm in decarbonization group. So you can just easily search that group function in there using the search function, and connect with the people inside, understand what is their concern, and try to create a post that address their concern. So sometimes what you can do is you can create a post, then you repost it to the group, then you get more reaction, you'll get more comments, and that will increase your SSI index. That means like if there is a specific topic that is relevant to your field, you will get up to the in the search list.
I could actually imagine a world in the very near future where a sales director is actually, when they're among the many criteria they look at for bringing people onto their sales team, that they actually not only look at the profile subjectively, but they actually are looking at the SSI number to try to determine if this person is competent enough on LinkedIn. In the same way, 20 years ago, you wouldn't have hired a salesperson that couldn't run PowerPoint slides.
Yeah. I think that won't work. No? So you need to have digital skills today to sell.
Yeah, it's all part of that. So, Patricia, when you look at what's going on in Singapore and throughout ASEAN and among digital infrastructure companies, data center related mission critical companies, what mistakes do you see being made with sustainability and decarbonization that you wish people would approach a little differently for a better outcome?
Oh, that's really the question that I really like to address. You're like reading my mind, Joshua. So, what I've been meeting several data center operator, colocation owner, and what I realized is that data center industry is a very structured, traditional maybe traditional is the not correct word. I will get into trouble saying this, but very structured organization where they are bounded by certain KPI target and limited by their standard operating procedures. And that makes adopting innovation or new technology rather difficult. Not they don't want to, is procedurally is challenging for the operator to adopt this technology. So, but we are, like I mentioned earlier, is in the world where the only constant is change. And every day we are reminded that global warming is real and disaster in every corner of our eyes. We talk about sustainability, but have we done enough to help prevent global warming and achieve our decarbonization target? Do we know what is the value of our action today in tomorrow carbon value? Why I'm saying this is because today's company are buying REC, renewable energy credit, to justify they have achieved net zero carbon in their companies. It is possible today because the price of REC is relatively affordable for most companies. And as we go global regulation about the whole REC, the demand of renewable energy credits will go up. And therefore, the cost for the company to buy the renewable energy credit also will go up because the supply will become more limited as the demand increases. So this is just a market reaction, right? So what they thought today is, okay, I have good enough cooling system, I have good enough infrastructure, but have they thought about how they could reduce this consumption today by applying a certain technology that might be capex intensive, but what is the benefit that you pay today for tomorrow, 10 years from now, how much energy you save and how much you can save on the future value of REC for the company. So when we decide to stick to the status quo of choosing the traditional cooling system or energy system, have we asked ourselves what can we do more to improve our energy consumption? And are we taking into consideration the price we will pay in the future if we don't adopt the technology today? So we should look into how much is the internal carbon pricing. Is a mechanism that can help to unveil the hidden cost of carbon in the company operations that could help you justify the long-term business case for the project. And understanding the carbon value of your action today, it's very important. That's what I feel, and I'm happy to discuss more if if there's an interest about this. But yeah, so basically, I feel this is the traditional approach that the data center is adopting right now. We will pay a price in the future.
So it sounds like the hidden cost of carbon usage and the renewable energy credits, the RECs, are a central part of the conversations that you often have with different kinds of stakeholders that eventually lead to a conversation of what Siemens does. But given that, I'm super curious about what kind of stakeholders, what kinds of roles in companies are most interested in having these conversations about renewable energy credits. Is it an ESG, a sustainability officer? Is it a chief finance officer? Does it depend on the size of the company or the industry? Where do you find the most interest or the most concern, or people most worried about that for their job performance?
Okay, I guess what you're trying to ask is, who do I normally talk to in the data center industry? And trying to share more about how's the data center industry buying structure likes, right? So I spoke to different C-level as well as the facility management. I think you need to speak to different level to understand their different perspective, and also to so the C-level normally give the vision, the the overall goal of the companies, and then somebody need to execute it. So you need to speak to both to understand what is their concern. The C-level might concern about energy, the sustainability, but then the facility management may be bounded by a certain SOP and KPI, where they have a certain way of process they have to follow to achieve that KPI and SOP. So this is where the clash is, and we have to make a different, share a different perspective of a solution or services to them to learn more about how that solution could address their challenges. So each of them has different challenges. You have to make sure that your pitch match with their challenges. And what we normally do is that, yes, indeed, the C-level concern about sustainability, but in the facility, the decision-making process itself may be done in the facility manager level, and we have to talk about ROI. So that's when the ROI calculation comes in, and we will help them to see how much an investment will cost them, and what's the benefit they will have, and what is the return of investment they could look at. Does it make sense to you, Joshua?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the more you talk through this, the more I'm starting to see that you are already at the place where I'm predicting that a lot of people in data center related sales are going, where it's not going to feel like they're interacting with a traditional sales professional anymore. It's going to feel a lot more like consulting. It's going to feel a lot more like a doctor-patient kind of relationship where you're helping them to guide through how other companies have navigated these kinds of challenges, how other leaders in these same kind of companies have addressed these kind of, so not only are you able to answer their questions, but you're helping them walk through the path of what comes next and who else needs to be involved in these kind of conversations. And it brings to mind kind of this concept that's been around in the IT space for a number of years, orchestration. It's like you're like an orchestra conductor, and kind of a huge part of what you're doing is not only helping them walk through the buying process, but you're helping to get all of the right people involved in the conversation to make the initiative successful, which sounds a lot like consulting and workshop facilitation.
Yes, indeed. I think that's the direction we have, and I believe also this is the way to go in the selling, because in where the sales people could come in and help them to address the client challenges, and not just selling product just for the sake of selling products.
With that in mind, if you were to look into your crystal ball and think ahead 2, 4, maybe 5 years out from now, how do you see the role of sales professionals in and around data centers and digital infrastructure, specifically that deal with energy and facilities, changing in the coming years?
Mm-hmm. Well, I believe the sales will be sales. You still have to turn leads into opportunities into a deal, into a project. So there still be the function of sales. So, but the things that we have to understand is that the consumer will get smarter and smarter as the internet will become more available for everybody, especially in Singapore, where we have the ideal situation of information flow. What I'm saying that is that if, let's say, you say something to a person, a company A today, likely that company B, C, and D might heard about the same thing next week. So maybe I'm exaggerating here, but that's what I mean by perfect information flow. So the consumer is very highly educated, so they may not need to read more brochures. Like we don't need to read them brochures, but we need to understand what is the challenge they have behind the question they ask. Because sometimes they listen to information, the YouTube and the internet. They understand that it's the product, but how can this product address the challenge? So this could be a lot of listening skill requires, to active listening to understand what is the problem, and try to address that issues by understanding what is the challenge at hand, what they have done to address the challenge, and what do they feel about it, about the solution they have. They might have done it, they have already have a solution in mind. They might have tried it, so if you just straight away selling the product, then you will not hear about all this stuff. So you want to hear what they say first, and what they have done to address the problem, and how happy they are with the solution. If they are not happy, why they are not happy. If they are not happy, have they done something about it? So keep asking kind of why and why and why, and try to learn more about the challenge they have beforehand, and the things they have done before you start selling your solutions. So that's probably my opinion of what could be the future of sales professional will look like for data center.
And that reinforces a theme that I'm hearing a lot in these interviews, is that as the self-propelled buyer's journey becomes the dominant buyer's journey, and this Gartner put out some research a couple of years ago that said that 83% of a typical buyer's journey is over before vendor contact or before they're willing to talk with someone from your sales team. As that continues to get pushed to the right, and their people are doing more and more education before they get to you, the bar is being so raised up for you and members of your team that they're just consuming so much content. And by the time they get to you, their expectations are so next level on what you need to bring to the table that it becomes increasingly difficult to stay 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of the prospects and clients to add value. And I guess this is where it becomes a challenge for a company like Siemens and for sales leaders to continue to provide the training to their team members so that they can add value that's exponentially greater than the surface level knowledge that their prospects and clients bring to the table through self-research.
Yeah, well, indeed, you're right. But we have a really, I would say Siemens is a good company. We have a lot of trainings program here to upskill ourselves, to reach out to the network. We have access to the LinkedIn platform, premium and sales navigators. So it's really good tools to understand about your market and be prepared before you meet your client. I think that's the homework you have to do before you meet anybody. I'm sure you've done a lot of homework about me as well before this interview.
Yeah, I mean, it's table stakes to now go in before anyone goes into any meeting. It's expected that you spend at least a few minutes looking at the LinkedIn profiles, and if there's multiple stakeholders because you're fortunate enough to be meeting with the decision committee, of course, a few minutes learning about the different perspectives of individual stakeholders. And usually what ends up happening is you have one person, either their internal champion or your initial foot in the door, that can sometimes give you the lay of the land a little bit. But yeah, the tools, now that these tools exist, there's really no excuse for people to go in cold anymore. Always in CRMs too, provide a tremendous amount of detail on the kind of content that people have consumed, videos they've watched, webinars they've attended, blogs they've read, and just it's getting to the point where it used to give you a competitive advantage to do this kind of research 10 years ago. I think you're actually at a massive disadvantage now relative to other companies that approach this space if this isn't part of your overall toolkit.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine if I have to do sales 10 years ago with all these tools. Like, how do you know your people? How do you know what they're thinking about? What is their concern? So you have to really explain everything from scratch. And to use the word they use. Now we have LinkedIn to understand how they phrase their posts, what are the terms they're looking at, but. Without that, then you really takes time to get to know your clients. But I guess that's the benefit of internet today. So information flow faster, and the more dynamics in the economy.
Yeah, it's amazing in less than 20 years how much of a major part of B2B selling that LinkedIn has become. It's sometimes easy to forget how that it's only been, I think I got on LinkedIn in 2008. I think it was around for 3 or 4 years before that, but yeah, it really only hit mainstream adoption tipping point maybe in the mid 2010s. And yeah, it's to the point now where I sometimes talk with people and they're like, I don't have time to get good at social media. I'm like, you don't have to get good at all social media. Just pay attention to the one that matters the most, where your prospects and clients are. And of course, do your homework to validate it, but you're almost certainly going to find that that LinkedIn is the place that needs people's attention, both for their own personal brand and as a tool to build rapport and learn more about what their prospects and clients need.
Yeah, I agree with you completely.
Patricia, this has been fascinating. I really appreciate you sharing your perspective on how you originally got to this place in your career, the advice you'd offer to people very early on in their career and mid-career who need a little bit more redirection, how you approach decarbonization and sustainability, the essential role of LinkedIn as part of your overall sales process, the different kinds of stakeholders that are super interested in talking more about renewable energy credits and decarbonization, all really, really helpful strategies and best practices. With that in mind, if someone wants to learn a little bit more about you or connect with you, is LinkedIn the best place for someone to find you?
Yes, absolutely. I'm always online on LinkedIn.
Okay. And if someone wants to learn more about what Siemens is doing in sustainability and decarbonization, both in Singapore and globally, where would be the best place to send them to?
I would say start with our website, but another tips I will do is use the Google keywords functions, to search about what a specific topic that you want, and look into different categories, because Google will help you to go directly to the page. But in the other hand as well, if you're looking into sustainability, I think you can search for energy performance and sustainability, and with Siemens, and you can learn more about us on what is our offering and services.
That is terrific. Thank you so much. I've been speaking with Patricia Alvina, who is a sales manager with Siemens in Singapore. Patricia, really appreciate you sharing so generously today.
Thank you. Thank you, Joshua, for having me here.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
The Data Center Go-to-Market podcast is sponsored by DCSMI, elevating the role of sales, marketing, and go-to-market GTM professionals in the growth of the data center industry. To stay informed about upcoming episodes, make sure that you subscribe to the Data Center Sales and Marketing newsletter on the DCSMI website that can be found at www.dcsmi.com. Again, that URL is www.dcsmi.com.